Welcome to Money Matters. My name is Malcolm Sime. At least 40% of insurance claims are fraudulent, and that's according to the industry regulator. The most affected business classes, according to information available, are vehicle accidents and medical covers. But that's a topic that's coming up later. But now on Money Matters, Agriculture Value Addition and the huge potential that it presents, the brewing storm over the mandatory pension contribution increase, and tips on business preparation for the new financial year. A lot has been said about Uganda's enormous agribusiness potential. For a number of reasons, however, optimizing this potential remains a far-off idea. In View from the Top this week, we delve into the hurdles in the way of this potential and what is being done to turn things around.
Oh, it's very nice to have you on the show. Money Matters. You're most welcome.
Thank you very much, Charles.
Now, I know for the fact that a number of our viewers are seeing you for the first time and they would like to know who you are. Can you please be kind and introduce yourself, who you are and what you're doing at ABI?
So my name is Andre Dellevoet. Not so easy for people to express my last name, but it's Dellevoet. And I am the new group CEO of AbiTrust, an organization that's been around for 5 years now in all of Uganda, working both on value chain development in a number of selected sectors, as well as financing the agricultural sector through Abi Finance.
Everyone has been talking about the potential that Uganda has in this particular sector. But how can we make the best of this potential?
One of the things that I noticed that was actually 10 years ago when I was already posted here with the Netherlands Embassy as head of cooperation at the time, and unfortunately the situation has not changed, is that the sector is highly underdeveloped to begin with, and that is from a technical point of view, from a financial point of view. Government support to it is also very sporadic, and you could argue that it's also too low, looking at the agricultural budget, for example. But also, it's very fragmented. The parties, the stakeholders in each of these sectors in the agricultural sector are not working together. They're very often doing their own thing, and of course run into these constraints that we just mentioned, also market-related constraints, where they are trying to solve everything themselves. And that's one thing that I would definitely advocate very strongly, that there must be a possibility for the stakeholders in the same sector to come together and to work out joint solutions, be it of a technical nature, know-how, as well as from a financial nature. And ABI should be a key player in that type of a convening, brokering role. And we have this wonderful opportunity that we already have the technical knowledge in-house as well as the financial side, so we can actually put our money where our mouth is as a partner in those forums. And that's where I hope we can work on joint solutions. But as we've seen in the past, there are lots of difficulties in these partnerships. People don't stick to the agreement. They do other things with the money. It's all there. And so there has to be discipline. There has to be a serious commitment from the partners to make it work.
Now let's look at some of the programs that you have as ABI for this particular market or the agribusiness subsector in this country. What are you working on? What should Ugandans be expecting from you?
Some of these programs, we have actually, if you look at the underdevelopment of the sector, all the constraints and the problems and the challenges that are in the agriculture sector, you can see that still happening. There's not a single issue that has been definitely resolved, and there are new problems coming along. One of the things that I found when I returned to Uganda, and I've only been around now for a month or so, is that the sector complained that the inputs are of a standard quality, or let's say fake seeds. Now that is dramatic, of course, for the smallholder farmer who probably has saved a little bit of money from the previous harvest, puts it into those seeds. They don't germinate, and so the show is over. And so it holds the sector back a lot. Now you have all kinds of things going on in these various sectors that we are supporting in coffee, for example, the quality of the coffee beans that the farmers deliver to the purchaser, if you will, are also substandard, because the farmers, they don't have the patience to wait until the beans are ripe. So they actually, all kinds of beans are put in those bags, and then they hope that somebody will buy it from them. And then, of course, they're aiming for high prices, but actually the quality is so bad that they don't get the price that they had expected. So they don't invest the same amount again next season because they didn't get the price that they wanted. And so it's a sort of like a vicious cycle downwards, spiral downwards, rather than growing the sector.
Now, talking about benchmarking, where can we look in the region or globally to draw lessons on how we can improve or turn around our fortunes and activities in this area?
Yes. Well, you see, there are, even in the region, countries who are doing better. Certainly, if you look at, let's say, the state of the private sector in Kenya is in a more advanced stage than the private sector here. They have developed over time a stronger technical and financial capacity to understand the business, to apply know-how, and also to invest more financial resources themselves, you know. So they're not waiting for government handouts. They are strong on their own as a private sector, and they know the market. So that is, I think the way ahead for the Ugandan private sector as well. But if you look at it, in many parts of the world, farmers are facing enormous challenges. In Asia, it's the same thing, and yet they are doing much better in terms of productivity than the Ugandan farmers. And why is that? Very often it has to do with the way people deal with the opportunities that they have. So it's not so much an economic issue, it's more what I just also mentioned to some people, it's the social and cultural issues. If people who farm wait for the government to give them seeds rather than actually going out there purchasing the seeds, making sure that those young plants are well taken care of, so they're waiting for handouts, yeah, that's something that is very difficult to do anything about.
A look at this week's Insight and the planned adjustment of workers' contribution to Savers Fund from the current 15% to 30% continues to jolt stakeholders in varying proportions. The National Social Security Fund defends the initiative, saying that it boosts its capacity to offer more services. Those with divergent views, however, insist that it is not supported by actuarial studies, adding that perhaps the fund would make it voluntary instead.
A new proposal captured in the Retirement Benefits Sector Liberalization Bill and being fronted by the National Social Security Fund to double up members' contributions is rubbing some stakeholders the wrong way.
So to that effect, unless we are convinced, but as of now we are not convinced at all, that there is need to increase even 1% on the 15 until we've seen what the 15% that is being contributed by employers and workers is benefiting the contributors.
According to the leadership of the 5.5 trillion shilling fund, expanding on a host of benefits provided for under the Pension Sector Reform Bill is not feasible in the current circumstance.
A housing benefit, there's a lot of money you must have on your savings. If you are going to qualify for a medical benefit, there's a lot of money that needs to be paid for that. If you qualify for an education benefit, that is a withdrawal. Basically, you're paying money for your education. If you look at all the other benefits, so they will impact on your current contribution. So we did an actuarial review of our current portfolio, and the number was anywhere between 20% and 30%. So the existing 15% will not be sufficient.
But a cross-section of fund management agencies and insurance brokers say that the move, which seeks to raise the members' contribution from 15% to 30%, would instead hurt the savers.
I have to pay my bills, I have to pay my electricity, I have to pay for water, I have to pay school fees, And on top of that, I need to be also pay my taxes. Now, if we increase the savings, much as it's a saving, it means that cash is not available in the short term to expend on immediate needs. And when that happens, there's always that pressure from the employee that is not earning enough.
However, the Uganda Retirement Benefits Regulatory Authority argues that there is need for consensus among all stakeholders on the issue of increasing members' contribution.
Then we sit down and find out what does it cost us to provide these benefits. Should it be managed under subsidiary legislation in terms of extra contributions if it comes to that? Or do we make those added benefits voluntary so that those who do not need them don't have to be subjected to any extra contribution? Or do we say, make a choice, if you want medical insurance, you shall have it, but of course that means you reduce your benefits, so the contributions remain the same.
Parliament is yet to pass the Retirement Benefits Sector Liberalisation Bill 2011, whose policy is to liberalize the retirement benefits sector to remove monopoly over mandatory contribution, among others.
Often, majority of people find themselves heading to the pharmacy to buy drugs, sometimes as prescribed by the doctor and sometimes to self-medicate. Truth though is that some of these pharmacies are certified while others are not certified by the National Drug Authority. The danger of buying drugs from non-certified pharmacies will be our focus on Consumer Insight today.
Buying medicine is not just a matter of pay and go. Patients have rights, must ask the right questions, and pharmacists too have rules they must follow.
Matter of writing there 2 times 3, and you have to explain maybe, for example, if there are precautions. For example, the drug where they say when you are taking this drug, don't take alcohol. You get it? The one behind the counter, whom we expect to be knowledgeable, the pharmacist knows the contraindications, the precautions, if there are any drug interactions. You are supposed to really have all that information. The dosage, contraindications, side effects, things like that. Because you can take the drug, and if you don't take it properly, it will not cure the ailment, for example.
And in the event that one buys an expired drug and it causes adverse effects, where do you go for redress?
You have realized this is what is expired. You bring the drug, of course, with a receipt from that, maybe pharmacy or whatever. So when you reach here, you are going to lodge your complaint. There is a formality. You fill the form, and it has some details, name of the complainant, for example, name of the institution, maybe your address, telephone number, because we need to follow you up. Then we investigate. Then when we conclude, we have to give you feedback.
It also matters where and from whom one buys medicines. Failure to follow these rules might be very dangerous to one's health.
And also, we don't, even if also buying, what we try to discourage is even buying from hawkers. Sometimes I know that, especially in buses, people are hawking. This is, I've already mentioned that drugs are not like any other commodities. They can expire there on the street. Somebody with his bag moving around. They can expire before the expiry date. You get it? You can have the drug expire in 2015, maybe December, but because of mishandling, it's already expired, irrespective of what is written there. So, and at the same time, those people who are not licensed or the hawkers, do they know what they are giving you? Do they know the dosage? Do they know the contraindications? So many things.
And how can one identify a legitimate drug shop or pharmacy?
The drug shops, what we have tried to do, we have the ones which are licensed by NDA, they must be having a poster there. Drug shop, X drug shop, Y drug shop, Then inside there, it is by law you must hang the license. That license for the drug shop has a photograph of that person behind the counter, what we call the in-charge. The in-charge in the drug shop is a qualified person. Can either be a registered nurse, enrolled nurse, clinic officer, all those cadres that we have approved.
The new financial year portends changes in tax policies that will have implications to business. In this segment of Make Money, we look at how businesses can prepare themselves for the impact of these changes.
Come next financial year, which starts July 1st, not everything might be about tax increases, but a few changes should actually help small businesses deal with their tax issues. Today, we shall discuss value-added tax, or VAT. The new proposals will move the VAT registration threshold from 50 million to 150 million shillings. This means that if your monthly turnover is less than 150 million, you do not have to register for VAT.
If the registration threshold is 150, then such an entity may choose to deregister from the VAT. And if it wants voluntarily to continue, it can continue being VAT registered.
But even those who are above the 150 million VAT threshold, some breathing space may be afforded under the new tax proposals. The VAT cash accounting threshold could also be raised from 200 million shillings to 500 million shillings. First though, what is cash accounting?
When I invoice my client, if I'm doing cash accounting, I'll only be required to account for VAT when my client has paid me.
In effect, if your monthly turnover is below 500 million shillings, URA will only require you to remit VAT when the people you owe pay you.
By increasing the threshold to 500 million, that means if your turnover is below 500 million, even if you are registered for VAT, then you'll be eligible for what we call cash accounting, and you only account for VAT on money you have actually received, which makes it easier from a compliance point of view, and it helps to foster businesses.
For more clarity, please see a tax expert to spell out for you any advantages and obligations due to you.
So this week's entrepreneurs are a family that decided that if they were to get ahead in agricultural practice, value addition was definitely the way to go. They make juice, wine, and tea out of agricultural products, and this is their story.
A training opportunity, complemented by the availability of resources, gave rise to a business plan that later materialized into what has today come to be known as Rena Beverage Solutions.
One of us was lucky enough to undergo training from an organization called Caritas. They trained a group of women at our local church. And from that training, she came back home and said, look, we have a garden that makes passion fruit. It's difficult selling these passion fruits, but I've had this training, and it looks like I can actually make money from this. So that's how we began, from a simple training, and then the availability of these passion fruits that we are being difficult to market.
The passion fruit prospect did not last too long. The urge for something more profitable led them to move on to the next promising idea, hibiscus.
Passion fruit was a bit cumbersome to sell, because the competition is stiff. Many people make passion fruit juice, and making a concentrate, the price was a bit high also, genuinely high, but generally high.
Backed by a seeming need for the product, the hibiscus product proved to be one that would work.
There were these lecturers who are there at lunchtime, they drink Coke. I said, this is not very nutritious. Then I said, I must develop something for them. In fact, our first product was sold to a Chambogo University lecturer for passion fruit concentrate.
And because this is a family business that enlists the help of family members, it created a situation where some had to juggle their day jobs with a business venture.
So the availability of a stable income from my monthly salary and the need for more money, which I could not actually get from the salary, motivated me to go into a business like this.
Family-run businesses have over time faced challenges of poor administration, a hurdle which this family insists they've devised a system for.
I know who is who. I know how to approach them. I know how to ask them to do something. I know what makes them work, and they know what makes me work.
But at the end of the day, the business, which started from scratch from raw materials from the family garden, is now one that is showing great promise and the family has big plans for.
This is a very minimal thing. We want to have an automated juice plant which produces 10,000 liters a day, because we know we are going to grow our market beyond Uganda, beyond East Africa, and to many other countries.
Rena Beverage Solutions, initially run by family members, now has a fully established workshop and employs a total of 15 employees and has seen its products hit the shelves of several supermarkets across the country.
It's now that time we take a look at what's happening in the world of markets. That's it this week on Money Matters. Thank you for watching. You can send us your feedback, comments and views. Get back to us on 6565. You can look for NTV Money Matters on Facebook and do the same. Otherwise, we wish you the best for the rest of the viewing.